On the rise in our neighborhoods and our communities. Carjacking is rampant. Women tell me all the time they're scared to pump their own gas at night. That is unacceptable. Northern Virginia is not Baltimore City. Don Beyer and woke liberals back soft on crime policies where allegedly minor and small dollar theft goes unpunished. Small dollar theft is not prosecuting theft under $1,500. Small dollar. I'd like Don Beyer and Nancy Pelosi to tell a small business owner in Northern Virginia to not worry about $1,500 of stolen goods and see how they react. This is completely out of touch with reality. I will never support these policies, and I will always back the blue and send funds to Northern Virginia to keep our communities safe. Education is near and dear to my heart. I went through Baltimore public school system. I understand the value of education. We must hold teachers accountable and protect parents' rights. I'm a supporter of school choice. A 4-year degree should not be a prerequisite for employment in this country. As your Congresswoman, I will support community colleges, technical and vocational training programs to ensure students who choose that path can still get a high-paying quality job. In this Biden-Pelosi-Beyer economy, inflation is the highest it's been in 40 years. Yes, spending is out of control, but we must rein in taxes to cut off the flow of money to the government for them to spend. I'm the only candidate who signed Grover Norquist's Taxpayer Protection Pledge, and that is my promise to the people of the 8th District that I will never raise your taxes. I also will not support bad policies from either party. I will oppose Republican Senator Rick Scott's 11-point plan that some of my opponents have said they support. This plan, according to Forbes.com, could raise taxes by $100 billion, mostly on low and moderate income households. I will also oppose the tax hike components and many others of the so-called Build Back Better plan. To win this election, we need common sense, conservative principles, and a fresh vision and face for Northern Virginia. And while I can't be there today, I hope these words resonate with you, and I would be more than happy to talk to you. My personal cell phone is 703-688-2705. Please call me directly anytime. Thank you for allowing this statement to be read today, and I hope to see you all soon. Okay, good job. Okay, so I'm going to hand this back, and let's see, we started with you, so we'll start with Monica on this one. So we're going to take questions from the audience. So who's got a question? Are you affiliated with a campaign? No, you're not working for any of these candidates, are you?
Me?
No, this lady here. We want to ask we want people who don't know these candidates to be asking questions. So who's got a question? Terry.
I think one of the key questions is, how are you going to be able to beat Don Beyer? I think that's the key question to this campaign.
Yeah, we getting close.
Okay, Monica.
Yes. I'm gonna defeat Don Beyer because I am gonna go after the swing voters. I'm gonna go after people that have never voted before. I'm gonna use my Spanish skills and my cultural awareness. Obviously, I'm Hispanic, and I have lived in many Latin American countries. I have lived in Central America. I understand their culture, and I think that the time has passed where Hispanics are just Democrats. That's not true anymore. Hispanic people have conservative values. They don't really like all this LGBTQ being taught at schools. They think it's outrageous. They just have to get out and vote, and that's what I plan to do. So if the 50% of the district is minorities or immigrants, and I really relate to those people because my parents were immigrants, and I lived overseas, and I speak Spanish. Another thing is that I am not going to be very polite with Mr. Beyer. I'm not going to let him call me Vicky like Victoria does. I know they're in the same party, but I'm not going to just sit there and just let him tell lies and make Hispanic people look bad. I don't like some of his public relations events that he's had where he shows Latinos eating crickets. I mean, I'm sorry, Latinos don't eat crickets, so I don't know why he's. And also, he calls Latin American politicians corrupt. Where hello, you are corrupt. He's corrupt. Okay, so I'm not gonna refrain. Okay, so it's time, but I am not gonna refrain myself. So he better watch out because I am gonna just give him a piece of my mind.
Okay. Just as a reminder, it's 90 seconds on the answer, so.
Okay.
Thanks.
So 2 years ago when I ran, the district was D+21. Since then, in the 8th district, the needle has moved right 6.5 points. Now, we don't need 21 of those points. We need 11 of those 21 points because that's just over half. So 11 minus 6.5 leaves what? 4.5. The best recruitment we have going right now is the Democrats and the environment that we're living in right now, because even moderate Democrats on the Hill in the House and Congress are distancing themselves from the president and the administration and the progressives. The split is happening. It's there. We need to take advantage of that. I went to the Arlington Democrat Forum where Don Beyer and Victoria Virasing had their little debate. And at the end, they were asked to say something nice about the other, and Don Beyer said, Victoria has a future. And let me tell you, she looks just like AOC, but she sounds better, dresses better, and communicates better. She's dangerous. And she's further left than Don. I guarantee it. So it's coming. That's done.
Thank you.
My name is Heerak Christian Kim, and Heerak means joy and happiness. So one of the ways I win people over is through joy and happiness that I share with them. I'm reaching out systematically to all 120 ethnic groups. For example, on Friday, May 6th, I'm going to the largest mosque in Northern Virginia, in Falls Church, in a meeting arranged by my newly appointed liaison officer to Muslim communities. And I will be speaking at their Muslim service during Ramadan and encouraging them to vote for me and the Republican Party. And I look forward to doing that with other mosques. I'm going to Hindu community and speaking to them on May 14th. And my director of community relations, Ms. Vu, she's Vietnamese, goes to the largest Vietnamese Catholic church. I'm Korean American, and I generally go to Korean church, and have grown up in the Korean church. I'm going from community to community to get all these Democrat voters to become Republicans in the long run and vote for me to become congressman on November 8, 2022. And that's how I'm going to do that. Thank you.
So I don't normally answer these questions with statistics and charts, but I think as we get down to business, I want to make sure we have a pretty clear and accurate, what I would like to do for you. So I'm going to tell you the things I jotted down this morning that are important to me. So one of the things we have to do is to make sure we collaborate with every single Republican community and that we have in the district. And we need to get excited about the voters, and we need to get excited about the candidates. It's not about me, and it's not about anyone that's up here. It's about you guys, and we cannot do this alone. We're going to have to do it with every single one of you. We have been working with Turning Point, and they are willing to knock doors for us. So we're going to be using all those college kids. We have kids that will even fly from Ohio and Florida and everywhere else because they believe in me, but I would want them to also believe in whoever wins on May 21st. I hope it's me. I know, and we are building coalitions right now already because we're following the same suit that Trump did before and then Youngkin did last year, and the Latino community, the Chinese community, the Korean community, the Vietnamese community, the Pakistani community, the Muslim community, the evangelical community. We're already meeting with leaders in every single one of those communities that are willing to get behind us. We're going to need the churches to get behind us too. We're going to have to knock every single apartment complex. I know you guys say, how do we get in there? There has to be a Republican at least in every single apartment complex. We need to identify them, find them, and get them involved. Oh man, there's so many more things. So I want to continue. So if you have more questions, I really do have a detailed plan on how we can reach our community and how we can beat Don Beyer, but it's going to take every single one of us. Thank you.
Who's got a question?
I'm Russell King. Recently in D.C., some aborted baby parts have been discovered in the trash. And my understanding is that maybe some of these were legally aborted in D.C., and for others, federal laws may have been violated. And D.C., I think, might be been dragging its feet on doing autopsies. What would you do? What are the federal laws that D.C. could have violated? And how would you ensure that this was properly investigated and prosecuted?
Okay. Jeff?
Well, that's going to be up to the Department of Justice to do that, unfortunately. And as we all know, many of the institutions of government have been weaponized and politicized. I don't have high hopes for that happening in that jurisdiction, unfortunately. And going into Congress, as far as how do we address that kind of problem, or how do we keep that kind of problem from happening? Let's stop funding abortion clinics and start funding adoption clinics. Let's switch the narrative. Let's put the positive on it. Let's support life. Let's make sure that mothers and babies are protected, that they have the resources, if necessary, to stay positive. As far as litigating that, again, that you're going to have somebody in the administration at the top that tells the Attorney General, this is what we need to do, or an Attorney General that knows what to do in the first place. So, thank you.
My name is Heerak Christian Kim, and people used to say, our rock, your rock, we all rock with Heerak. And in a sense, this is also an issue of garnering support to examine something that is an injustice. So we can get the FBI involved in desecration of human bodies. We can language it in a way where FBI will have to investigate, because if there are mutilated animal parts, that could be investigated as well for cruelty to animals. So getting federal agencies involved is important. And there was a doctor in Philadelphia who performed abortions, and he violated several laws and went to jail for it. And Philadelphia is a very democratic area, like Washington, D.C. But with the right angle approaching this case, we can, number one, get the federal agencies involved. Number two, sway the popular opinion against democratic agencies like Planned Parenthood and politicians, and bring about more of a Republican direction for Washington, D.C. as well. So there's politicking that we can do. And also at the level of Congress, we can open an inquiry into this event, maybe group it with several other incidents around the country. Thank you.
I definitely am pro-life. I believe life starts at conception and ends at natural birth. So I will always be advocating for pro-life causes. But one of the things we can do at the Capitol moving forward, and if I'm there, is I can advocate for the heartbeat bill, or not the heartbeat bill, I'm so sorry, my brain just went blank, but they're to be able, born alive bill, that's it. So if a child is born alive from an abortion, that they have to give them the same medical provisions that they would for a wanted child. I used to think that I would advocate for abortion to be sent to the states. I have now changed my mind. I think that it should be outlawed federally, and as the Supreme Court is going to probably take this to the state level, we're going to see more and more actual pro-abortion laws that are going to try to come to us at Congress. So I'm just letting you know up front, I will be against any pro-abortion law that happens to come in front of me, and I will fight against it and strike it down.
Yes, I think that's terrible, that's atrocious what happened, and I think several things about this. First of all, I think that DC needs new guidance. Eleanor Norton Holmes has been there for way too long, almost 35, 40 years. And this is why I believe in term limits. I think that DC will be better with another congressperson there. I believe that life starts at conception, and I believe that young women need more guidance. So I would also support more funding for adoption clinics and church groups to counsel young girls. I think that a lot of these girls, if they had a support network, if they had counseling, this wouldn't happen. And out of adoption comes wonderful things. I mean, you have people like Congressman Whitman. He was adopted. You have wonderful people, so people should be given a chance, and terrible things like this should not happen. Okay, thank you.
All right, are there any women in here that want to ask a question?
Rosie, I do.
Okay, wait, I'm gonna go with Marty first, and then I just want to make sure, because we've had nothing but guys ask questions, so you're up.
Are you sure?
That's being unfair.
What's your question, Marty?
There is apparently a great division on the question of the Ukraine war. There are those who believe that if we don't stop Putin now, he will just proceed to other countries. Then there are those on the opposite side who feel that if we do anything that looks escalatory, he will use the nuclear option. I'd like to know what your position is on the war in Ukraine and what the United States should do and why you take that position. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for the question. I was at CPAC on day one of Russia-Ukrainian war when Russia invaded. And I called on our President Joe Biden to send US military on day one and end the war quickly within 1, 2, or 3 days. If we killed, let's say, 20 to 50,000 Russian soldiers on Ukrainian soil, they would have folded and would have had a truce, and Russia would not have been aggressive anymore in that region. We would not have had to give any money to anybody that we cannot account for. Like we give $80 billion to Ukraine, we don't know what's happening. You can go to Zelensky's Swiss bank account. A lot of corrupt governments do that. And it's our hard-earned tax dollars. That's why I oppose sending money to Ukraine, because we can't account for it. And we know how corrupt Ukrainian government is from all the things that happened with Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden. So we have evidence that indicates that they're corrupt. And that would not have brought about nuclear war because we would have fought just in Ukraine. So it's a satellite state. We're fighting a war there. Some of our soldiers could have died, but the war would have ended had we killed 20 to 50,000 Russian soldiers there. So that's what I support to make America great again. Thank you.
Well, because I'm not national security intelligence, I will be depending heavily on the people that are in the house with me that know these things and understanding them, so I can get a very well-informed answer every single time. But for me, I have felt incredibly heartfelt and tragedy for what is happening in Ukraine. I also know that we cannot continue to be on both sides of the issue. We can't be buying oil from Russia and then sending money to Ukraine. And we can't continue to be weak in the world and then say say that we're gonna put sanctions. Like, we have to have strength. We have to continue to lead in peace like we've had before. I don't know how we've gotten to this mess in the last 15 months. This is incredible that we are here. We've got to return back to our stand firm in policies that we had before COVID so that we can protect nations that are vulnerable to oligarchs and to these extremists. I am 100% against war in general, personally. And I would think about any time before I send American troops about the cost of what it takes for every one of you that have kids who are in the military or husbands who are in the military, because we are risking not just Ukrainian lives, which is horrific, but we're risking American lives, and every life really matters to me. And so it's a very big decision every time we talk about war, and there are great sacrifices that we have to make when we do that. But I would want to get all of the information I can and fully understand it, especially from an intelligence that he's going to have, and they're going to have more information than I do. And so I want to learn all of those things and then be able to present it to you, the American people, and come up with a very good solution.
Okay. As many of you know, my background, I've spent a lot of time looking at that part of the world, meaning Russia. I've been a planner for supporting the Yukon Theater commander in their war plans against WMD use of nuclear weapons by Russia for the last couple of years. So there are things that I know that I can't share here. About 10 years ago, I was the desk officer for the National Guard Bureau State Partnership Program to European Command, and part of my portfolio was the relationship that the state of California has with the country of Ukraine as part of the State Partnership Program, which helped build the military capabilities of the former Soviet bloc countries after the fall of the wall, in a nutshell. And part of that is what has enabled the Ukraine to withstand an overwhelming force by Russia up to this point. So they have taken the skills and the knowledge that we have supplied them to withstand the onslaught up to this point. As far as your question goes, those are not mutually inclusive or exclusive of each other. They could both be true, or they could both be false. I will tell you that Putin's health is in question. I will tell you that he wants nothing more than a Russian empire. He has gone into the Ukraine before to get Crimea. He's gone into the nation state of Georgia to get land there in the same fashion he's doing in the Ukraine now. So this is a pattern of behavior that has to stop, or exclude Russia completely and utterly from the international community. And honestly, I would like to see the UN vote Russia off the Security Council.
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate the question, and obviously Jeff has more military experience than I, since his ancestors for the last 5 generations were in the military. This is something that I would have to consult with the intelligence agencies here, like the DIA and NSA, CIA. This is not something that is that simple. When's the right time to interfere? But one thing that I know is that we have to rely more on our energy. That we have to reopen the Keystone Pipeline. We can't be depending on these countries that are unstable. We have to use our own energy, create jobs here. So, as a congressperson, I would consult with the other congressmen here in Virginia, Bob Good, Whitman, and Griffith, on what the right next step would be. Thanks.
All right, so next is gonna start with Heerak.
You started last. We started the last one.
Okay, so then Kezia. Okay, Kathy, you wanna ask the question?
Yes, thank you all for running for office. This is really wonderful to see. My question is, whoever is elected, what will be the first issue of waste, fraud, and abuse that you'll address?
It's a great question.
No, I don't mind going first.
Oh my gosh, let's go down the list, right?
Yes.
Yeah, in our district alone, I know a lot of you guys are probably, some of you are going to be in the defense, so I hope that doesn't make mad, but or make anyone mad in here, but that is the number one place that we have money that is being spent on discretionary spending that doesn't quite make sense. Like, I was talking about to some people just recently about that is the biggest place where the fraud happens, with how they inflate budgets, how they inflate our weapons, how they inflate our intelligence, the type of employees that we have, the type of research that we have. As a business owner myself, I'm so sorry, but I start looking at budgets and the way things are being spent, and I want to go and cut it out, because it is more important right now that we fix our economy. It's more important that we have a future for America than for us to have these cushy jobs that aren't necessary and that don't necessarily help our communities, and definitely don't do anything to further and advance us in America. And another thing, this is a different one than the DOD, but we don't necessarily need people to like go and study and how many people get bit by a dog, or mailmen get bit by a dog. I mean, that's like an actual job, right? I mean, those are actual kind of jobs, and we have those all throughout our communities, especially in District 8. We're kind of known for overinflated jobs and fraud. So that will be some of the first things we do.
Yes, I would be doing more cutting of the Department of Education budget. It's the third largest budget in the federal government, because most of the schools are funded by the local level, and a lot of the funding for the U.S. Department of Education is for college grants and loans. I think that there should be more tradespeople, not so many college graduates, because there's a lot of people that don't want to do the kinds of jobs that are needed out there for the economy to work better. So that's where I would do the cutting. I don't think I would cut the Department of Defense budget. In fact, I would actually want more of the federal budget to be spent on defense, because we need to be the world leader. We need everybody to know like that we are a world leader. We need a strong defense budget, and that impacts Virginia very much, because a lot of the people in Northern Virginia and all over Virginia are employed by the Department of Defense. This is where the ships are made, where they're maintained, so we need a strong defense budget. Thanks.
So I think the number one problem when it comes to government funding is less about the funding and more about the leadership and the representation and the people that spend that money. So how about a change in leadership first? Once we do that, fraud, waste, and abuse. Let's talk about election fraud and make sure that our voting system and election systems are secure. First and foremost, that is the most important thing we can do in this country, because every other decision that we talk about up here or in Congress is based on the results of the election. Period.
Yeah.
Waste, government spending, not just taxes, but spending. We need to have a cap on how much we can spend and a cap on how much we can tax. Abuse, the politicization and weaponization of government agencies against political rivals and the American public. It has to stop, and those who perpetuate it and are involved within it must be prosecuted. Period. Those three things, top of the list.
My name is Heerak Christian Kim, and as you know, I'm MAGA America First candidate. I held a 2020 Trump election integrity book signing with Darrell Brooks, who was a poll watcher in Philadelphia, and he described the kind of cheating that was going on in 2020 election. We were shocked to see what happened in 2020, and for those of you who've been following my Twitter, I typed out in all bold caps that there was cheating in the 2020 election, and Trump won. And so, and I am happy that I was able to encourage other Republicans to stand up in January. And I think that attacking January 6th protesters in the way that they are doing is unjust. They're targeting conservatives in a way that is meant to politically gain for the Democratic Party. And it's a political strategy. It's a protest that got out of hand a little bit in the heat of the moment, and that's how we should treat it, not these people being domestic terrorists, the way Democrats want to treat it. And so I want to start by bringing impeachment charges against Joe Biden for waste, abuse, and fraud. Thank you.
Okay, I skipped over John twice because he wasn't female today, so your turn.
This is my first such meeting. I've been a member of the party for a couple of years now. I'm here to find out which one of you candidates can beat Don Meyer. What you do once you're elected, I understand you're Republicans and we probably agree on 90% of the issues. I want to find out which one of you is going to be able to bring the Republicans to the polls and bring independents to the polls especially, and maybe even some Democrats, based upon our shared values, not just Republican values, but independent values and even some Democrat values, because we share a lot of them. So, tell me how you're going to not just bring the Republicans in, we understand who you are. I want to find out how you're going to reach out on those shared values to others.
Hi, let me start. I want to say that I'm honored to be running with these people, these individuals here. Some of them I actually like. So, yes, we're all pretty cosmopolitan people. Kezia has international experience, so do I. Heerak has the Ukrainian experience. Okay, so the point is that basically I'm going to be Don Meyer because I have connections. I know Mr. Duncan, he knows me. I know Mrs. Duncan, she knows me. I was in Women for Glenn. I'm in the Great Falls Mclean Women's Club, and I speak Spanish. I relate well to Hispanic culture and to the Asian culture as well because my parents are from Peru, South America, where there's a lot of Asian immigrants. There are a lot of Asian immigrants there, so I understand those cultures as well. I plan to garner those votes, and